Another thing that's related to this that I've introduced from time to time, and I, you know, it's not possible to do it on a very regular basis, is to have sort of extracurricular lectures. And I did one, a series of 3 a year or so ago on, you know, the notion of the role of the British Prime Minister, and we invited an ex-politician, a journalist, and an emeritus professor who had made a point of study of this in his own career, was, you know, is regarded as a specialist, and he's very entertaining anyway. And that actually worked reasonably well, although I have to say that the primary audience that I was trying to attract didn't actually come in huge numbers. What I found in a way more successful is working with the Politics Society that we have associated with the department, in terms of actually encouraging them to have discussions, panels, debates, invite a series of speakers, and you know, I've offered to chair this. 2 that went very well were, firstly, at the last European Parliament elections, they invited representatives from the main parties standing in London. Unfortunately, the Labour candidate was ill on that day, so we ended up with Conservative, Liberal Democrat and UKIP, but you know, that they gave very different and very interesting perspectives, and you know, the students sort of were quite surprised in some ways that they were as frank as they were, I think. And another one, which is sort of even more problematic, was on the whole question of the future of the Israel-Palestine conflict. And we were going to have a formal debate, and I used to be involved in teaching stuff associated with this in the dim past, so I have a few contacts, so I advised them, you know, sort of the sort of people they might invite, and sort of went and put in a word, oh, please come. And my colleague in the department, Brendan O'Duffy, is a specialist in conflict resolution, and I asked him if he'd come along at the end and give an overview. So in actual fact, what happened was, needless to say, at the last minute, one of the speakers couldn't come. So Brendan had to actually participate on the panel, and we couldn't have the formal debate because it was actually unbalanced. I mean, we had, you know, 2 people speaking for, if you like, the Palestinians from very different perspectives, and 2 people speaking for the Israelis from different perspectives. So we ended up with one speaking for the Israelis, and actually was quite moderate, and one speaking for the Palestinians who was quite moderate, and another speaking for the Palestinians who was slightly less moderate. And then Brendan was trying to draw it all together. But I did lay down ground rules at the beginning of this. I said, you know, this is a very sort of important and sensitive subject. People have very strong opinions on this. Nobody is sort of going to force an opinion on anybody, but you have to, if you ask a question, you have to be respectful, you know, of other people's views, and we need to discuss this calmly. And they behaved very well. And I mean, they were sort of, we put the word around outside, so there were people from other institutions who came along, including some sort of NGOs and whatever. And I think they actually did get quite a lot out of it. So I think, you know, the fact that involving the students directly in organising an event, in fact, you know, that they do most of the organisation, has tended to work much better than when I and a colleague on our own have tried to organise it, because I think they feel, you know, they've got a bigger stake in making it go well, and in, you know, sort of inviting and sort of dragooning their friends into coming along. And, you know, I think it does spill over into helping them sort of appreciate different sorts of conflict and contestation in politics.